Yo, JD here, Limitless, and as you can see, back on F1 2021 as always. And today, we're at a track that I absolutely love, Silverstone, my home track. And this is for the ORL League. This isn't an official league race because they were on a break week. So this is kind of an unofficial league race, but still everyone treats it as the same. Still very, very competitive people in here. Not everyone is in here in terms of the full grid, but it's a way of really just making sure your skills are fresh, see how competitive you are, a bit of practice, and the format is exactly, well actually no, it's not exactly the same because we're running short qualifying here rather than the full qualifying. So I really didn't do too much practice for this. I wasn't actually going to do this race, so I just did one session before this, downloaded the top TT time and literally just used that. So I had one session before, did a 26-0 in my first session, which I was actually quite happy with. But you see, coming across here, we've done a 26-3 so far. Andre is the fastest at the moment, so this is my final lap using the Williams, because as I said, this isn't an official league race, but the people like Andre and the two Mercedes guys in here I know are very, very fast as well. So it will definitely be a good test. This is on PC as well. So coming through this first turn, my sector 1 was quite poor on my previous lap, so I knew I could make up quite a lot of time here. And you can already see it, especially on the exit here, just carrying that extra speed, over a 10th up going through sector 1. So this is a very, very good sector 1, but sadly, as we come towards the end of it, we miss it by an absolute million miles, the apex, and I think that cost me well over 2 tenths. My middle sector, as a result of that, wasn't particularly great either. It was about a 10.5 down, 2 tenths down from my best that I've done in the lobby before. So we've got all the work to do. We're still behind Andre. So going for this middle sector split, let's see what we do here. In esports, for reference, they were doing mid 25s. Come through here with a 0.7 despite that mistake. Normally the esport guys go in a 0.3, 0.4, so we're not actually even that far away. I think with a lot of practice around this track, as we miss the apex here as well, I think we could definitely do a mid 25 to high 25 consistently, which will actually put us in a pretty good pace around here. So come around the last corner, we do this okay, making up, so we improve by 10th. We actually get provisional pole despite that mistake. Is that going to be enough? Turns out it actually was enough for pole position, so a lot more time in the tank, and I see it as actually quite promising that that minimal practice, not really developing a setup, that we're able to achieve something like that. So I was quite happy with that. Now we've got a 50% race now, and this will be a good test as well. I haven't actually won a race on PC in a league racing kind of setting yet, so that's definitely something I'm looking to tick off the list. So we've got 3 lights, 4 lights, 5 lights here. Let's see if we get a good start and we get a pretty reasonable launch off the line. But Andre gets a pretty good start himself, so we're just going to go around the outside. A bit dangerous to hold it on the inside there, very easy to get damaged, but he goes down the inside, so it's being aggressive from the get-go. And typically Andre is quite I raced him quite a few times on PC now. He's normally quite a calm, chilled, conservative, relaxed driver in my opinion, but since this isn't a league race, this doesn't really count for anything at all. Pretty much like an open lobby, really. You can see here it's going down the inside once again, and I think if this was a league racing setting, he'd probably be racing quite a bit differently, because it doesn't really, when you've got this many laps to go, normally in a league race you want to be working together and planning your attack for the end of the race, because it's not really that beneficial to be leading around Silverstone, as well as you will see a little bit later in this video. But you can see he's getting a bit punchy, so as I said, perfectly fine. And I think in this kind of setting, no, it's really just a free-for-all, nothing to be gained. So I think more people go just turn up the aggression a bit more, which is annoying for me when I'm in the lead, but everyone can do whatever they want, really, in this kind of scenario here. So could be a little bit feisty as this race goes on, but we come across the line leading the first lap of this race. And you will see throughout that the DRS is a very, very powerful thing. Might even be too powerful in this game, since the dirty air and slipstream are pretty minimal. The DRS is just very, very powerful. So you can see on these first couple of laps, we weren't really pushing too hard. You can see we have still 92% of the ERS available here. So I'm going to try and stretch the legs just a little bit, because there is a medium runner.
Get a move on a bit, because there's a medium runner in P5.
As exactly as I say there, of I can't even pronounce. I'm not even going to attempt to pronounce his name there, but Shazoo SHZ in 5th. He's quite close. He's only 2 seconds behind, and I think the safety car has actually been turned off for this race as well. So the alternative strategy usually is more powerful in this game, and around Silverstone it's pretty decent as well, because the DRS, if you're stuck in the DRS train, like the guy in 3rd or 4th, they're really not going to be able to make much progress. It's only really Andre he has the opportunity to overtake. So I'm going to try and stretch the field out as much as I can. Annoyingly, my webcam was actually perfectly blocking the mini-map as I was doing this race, but everyone is actually quite close together at this stage here. And as I said before, on PC, I think from first to last, the standards are definitely a little bit more competitive than they have been on console. So I'm going to try and get a move on and reclaim the fastest lap quite nicely with a 29.3. But coming through into lap 4 now, Andre's actually got a 3-second time penalty already, which I said before, in these kind of races you do tend to drive a little bit more aggressively because it doesn't count towards anything. So people don't really mind as much if they get a penalty or anything at all. It's just them just kind of practicing their own race pace as you will. But you've always heard me say that I always try and treat everything like a league race. So I'm going to try and not get any warnings, any penalties or anything at all, because I think that's what really, really helps with consistency moving forward, as Andre reclaims the fastest lap with the aid of the DRS, just showing how powerful that DRS actually is. But you can see, moving on to lap 6, we've been able to save ERS quite nicely, so I'm not really interested in overtaking him at this stage of the race. I'm quite happy to sit behind. I'm not going to be over aggressive because, as I just said a few seconds ago, I want to treat this like a league race itself. I don't want to be extra aggressive just for the fun of it. I want to try and treat it like it was the real thing, as Ben Mills has actually gone into the pits. So one of the Mercedes has gone into the pits. That's quite early to go on the set of mediums. And now we're going to stay on board again, just to show you how powerful this DRS actually is. But you can see the medium runner is only 1.5 seconds behind. So he's managed to cling on to this DRS train pretty nicely. See, my tyres aren't in too bad condition. They're almost on like 40% on the rear, so that's not really too bad at all. And I think you can see at this stage of the race, we definitely have a lot more pace. We've got 100% ERS available, and I'll be answering a little bit on the battery shortly, because I do see so many people say, why do you have so much battery? Why are you not using this battery? The line at the top is how much deployment you actually have left in the lap. And even if the battery's on 70%, doesn't mean you can actually use 70%. The deployment can actually run out quicker than the battery per lap, or it usually absolutely does. And you can see here, we're not even using the battery. Andre being very defensive once again, so really taking the gloves off for this race, being very, very aggressive, definitely out of character to how he normally drives in the race. So we do a little bit of a dummy. The other Mercedes decides to pit as well, so we're just going to continue on again, because I think this is still a little bit too early. But yeah, with the battery, sometimes you can have about 60% left, but then you just run out of deployment. And I think a lot of people think that you can just use all of the battery. And you will see an example of that as we are going to be doing our in-lap soon. So Andre re-overtakes us. So again, being very, very punchy, just not really interested in saving the ERS or anything at all. Just wants to have battles all the time, apparently. So we're just going to let him go. We're going to save the ERS once again. And I felt this pace wasn't too bad at this stage of the race. But we do have the medium runner of Shizou behind us. And the other medium runner is a bit too far behind to have a real impact in this race. As Andre looks like he's using even more battery going down this straight. So in a very, very aggressive move. But we have a lot of battery here. You can see the battery's on 98, not 100%, but you can see that bar at the top. That means we've actually used half of our deployment, because the deployment has always been used. And you can see now the deployment at the top bar has actually been reset. So quite often people mistake you having more battery, but your deployment has actually run out. So here's going to be a good example of this. I'll probably pause it at the end of the straight. So we've been pushing very, very hard. Actually 2 temps up on our fastest lap. So we've got a bit longer. Felt we had still some life in the tyres. But as you can see here, the percentage is on 48, but we have that 1 bar, which means if I used a bit more battery, we would completely run out of the battery. So I see so many people say to me, like, if I was battling someone here right now, they'd be like, oh, why? You've got 40% ERS, but that's because the deployment has run out. And I think a lot of people miss that. And very frustrating for people like myself and other racers when people backseat and say that, but that's just something you have to live with. But hopefully this will educate a few more people of why you probably see me holding a lot more battery in some scenarios. So I always describe that I like to have extra bullets rather than go down to the very last one. I always like to be as efficient as possible, because I think in more times than not, it's more beneficial. But let's see what our overcut or undercut is with these guys. So you can see Andre has just got past now, along with the 2 Mercedes. So the undercut wasn't that big. Andre has a lap older tyres than me, so not that significant. But the guys here, I think they have like 4 to 5 laps older tyres, which towards the end of the race, I think will actually be a fairly big factor. So we'll come out the pits here, and as we are recharging our battery, you can see now we're back on 100%. So we've got absolute maximum attack here. And funny enough, Silverstone isn't the easiest place in the world to be saving the battery as well. So we're going to come through here. We're going to stay on board probably for the next few laps now, because these are quite important laps in this race. And I think you will see that one of the Mercedes up ahead actually has his red light flashing. It might not be this lap, but it might be the lap after this, as we are coming over a little bit of traffic that just gets absolutely obliterated by one of the Mercedes here. You can see they're pushing very, very hard, battling tooth and nail, and this is typically what happens when it's not a league race. People will just do this kind of thing, whereas in reality, I don't think this is the smartest thing to do, because now they've just allowed Andre to get away, whereas if I was them, I would be trying to really focus on conserving the battery and making sure that I am as close to Andre as possible. So I decided that we really need to get a move on now, because I think these guys are probably going to lose the DRS here. So we're going to go down the inside of Ben Mills here, being a bit punchy with him, and he returns it in the favour here. So I really need to try and get this move done. So being a bit aggressive myself, just knowing when to be aggressive. So now using the battery here, we're going a little bit faster in a straight line, but I suspected that he'd probably fight this quite hard, so we leave him some room on the inside here. But then going to this corner, I think we're going to have this move done, which we do, and that is now up into provisional, probably a net P3 here. But this other Mercedes, his teammate, you saw his red light was actually flashing, and now you're about to see the power of the DRS as well. It is just absolutely insane how powerful the DRS is. And he isn't going to have the DRS on Andre because they've actually allowed him to get away. So I really need to get past him now and use this momentum to get onto the back of Andre. So you see his red light's flashing. It's under 10%. He's been very defensive as well, but we've got enough speed to get back on the racing line. And now I've got to use this momentum again to get within 1 second of Andre. So we're probably going to stay aboard on the next lap as well. Our tyres aren't too different, so it's really going to be about who has the more raw speed here. As the deployment resets, we do set the fastest up of the race, but we're going to go again. So you can see we're pushing quite hard with the ERS now, and we're just going to make sure we get under that 1 second mark. But we also have to remember that the Shazoo guy in the McLaren is going on the alternate strategy, and he will be definitely a factor at the end of this race, because I think the soft tyres are probably the best tyre on this game most of the time. They're a very, very good tyre to use, which is why the alternate strategy is very, very good on this game. So you can see we've got a purple sector 1, and I think we've just about got within the DRS zone. So we didn't have DRS for the first sector, but you can see again he's pushing quite hard to get out of my DRS zone. You can see he's actually a bit faster in the straight line, but we do this corner very, very nicely using the battery pack myself. You can see he's fighting very, very hard, so I suspected he was using quite a lot of battery to try and keep me out. But the thing is, once you get the DRS, as I've done now, you'll be able to see we're not even using the battery down the straight, and we're probably going to be getting 2 to 3 temps. And yeah, you can just see how much speed you gain with the DRS. It is just absolutely nuts. So coming through to here, comfortably go be in the DRS zone. It actually goes a little bit wide going through the last chicane, and we should be able to set comfortably another fastest up of the race. So we do a 28.1 now. But Andre also has a penalty. The car behind actually has a 5-second penalty, probably for speeding in the pits here. So we're moving on to lap 14, and you can already see in one lap we're running quite a low downforce setup, so we were quite fast in a straight line, which meant we were able to save quite a decent amount of the battery here. So right now we've still got this alternate runner of the medium guy out in the lead. So in a league racing scenario, you probably want to be working together right now. You probably don't want to be battling, losing time, because the alternate strategy will be very strong at the end. So I'm not using any of the overtake here, and I thought this was going to be quite an easy pass. So we're fully alongside. Going down into here, I can't see the arrow to the right. I thought he was actually behind me, but no, he actually decides to still stick it down the inside. So really not wanting to give up this position. So we're not even going to fight this on the exit here.
We're just losing time here.
Losing time, as I said. And I said, yeah, as I said before, that if this was in a league race, then this is probably not the smartest thing to do, especially if it was F1 Esports. Don't want to be doing that, but he actually lets me go. So yeah, if that was in a different scenario, he probably should let me go. If I was him, I would have just let him go and used the DRS, save the battery, and then attack at the end, because we have 11 laps to go here. But nonetheless, and you can see we were losing about a second on this lap from our fastest lap, so losing quite a bit of time. And the medium runner probably wasn't even lapping that much slower than here. So we're up behind this guy here now, who hasn't pitted yet. So I really wanted to try and use this as an opportunity to break the DRS between myself and Andre here. So I'm going to use a lot of the battery on the exit here. His red light is flashing as well, so everyone else is actually struggling quite a bit. So we're just going to stay on the racing line. But you will see again that Andre also had the DRS on me. This guy's going to go into the pits, because really the softs could do well over 10 laps, so probably a little bit late by his standards. But you can see Andre has managed to stay within our DRS zone, 9 tenths behind. So I'm pushing very, very hard again, just to try and keep him out of the DRS zone. But the detection point is about here, about through this corner is where the detection point actually is. And you can see he's 8 tenths, 9 tenths away. So he's going to be within the DRS point. I'm going to push again just to see if I can get out of it. But you will see by the delta that the DRS is just far, far too powerful. And I don't know if it is too powerful or not. Let me know what you think. But I think the dirty air isn't that significant on this game. And neither is the slipstream. So yeah, it's very, very hard to escape the DRS, especially around Silverstone, where it's pretty much all flat out for most of the lap here. So we're not even going to push anymore. We know that he's going to have the DRS going down this straight. So now it's about saving our battery, because we are on about 25% battery with about, no, 8 laps to go in this race. See, we did actually do the purple middle sector there.
Gotta save the ERS again.
So yeah, I know that I've got to save the ERS now. So I'm not really going to be pushing too hard now. As we're coming on to lap 24 of this race, you can see the soft runner setting the fast lap of the race. He's up into P3. He actually came at 6 seconds behind. That just shows you how powerful the softs potentially can be here. You can see Andre still has that 3-second time penalty, but we've managed to save quite a lot of the ERS, so we're in a quite good position here. I was thinking about trying to get the DRS of this car up ahead, but it probably would have been the same thing as what happened before when we were overtaking that medium runner, where Andre would just had my DRS and there wouldn't have really been that much benefit at all. So I decided to save it, decided not to use it. And I want people to remember about what I said about the battery earlier. Look at the deployment on the top bar. So the bottom bar is how much you save this lap. That's how it works. So as you see me brake here, you'll see that bar at the bottom actually increases. The top one decreases. That's how it works. So I've got 98% battery, but the bar isn't 98% full. And you can see as I'm using it here, that bar is coming down now quite a bit. So really ran this track in the last game. You wanted to be the car leading going to the last lap because Dirty Air was quite a bit more significant. And if you've watched F1 Esports recently, you will know that leading is not really the best thing to do on here because the Dirty Air is very minimal and the DRS is just very powerful, and you can just see how powerful it actually is. So I want to go into this last lap with around 70% ERS to use. That means I can really just use everything I can, and all I have to really worry about is the deployment. So now we're going to be using it here now. I do have a lap fresher tyres, and we've got to try and make a 5/10 to 6/10 gap going down this back straight. So coming through to here, I'm pushing absolutely as hard as I can. The gap is about 4/10 going through into here. I don't think it's going to be close enough on the exit of this corner, which is usually a favourite place to overtake on the last game. So using the battery here, now we are going to turn it off because he is not going to be close enough into this corner. But the Deltier doesn't exist as much on this game, so he's able to follow very, very close going through into here. We get a very good exit off this corner. You can see the gap is about 4/10 of a second, about almost 5/10 of a second. So this is a pretty decent gap to do at the moment. Almost going flat out through here, managing to keep it on track as well. But you can see he's closing up very, very quickly, coming through into here. That's our first track invalidation. Now coming through here, trying to get a good exit. We go on the overtake super, super early. See, he's about 4/10 behind, but the DRS is just going to be so powerful here. Despite him having a 3-second penalty, he doesn't care. This is not a league race. He's going to go for it, but we defend that very nicely. And if you look at my deployment, it's on absolute 0, so we have no battery left here. He goes down the inside. We get pushed wide slightly. I get hooked on this car on the outside, but then the McLaren goes down the inside of the softs, and we lose this race by 0.032 of a second.
I can never win on my good tracks.
We almost did it perfectly, but to lose by that amount is... most of the time it works out in my favour, I have to say, but that time it didn't, and I got hooked on Andre's car. Yeah. It's not a league race. He's going to go down the inside there. I think if that wasn't a league race... oh, sorry. If that was a league race, I don't think he would have made that move. Because he had a 3-second time penalty. So, yeah, it is what it is. Perfectly entitled to do that. And I'm showing you my battery deployment here because I know I have so many people say, why did you not use 30% battery? But if you look... we had no deployment left. We ran out of deployment, I think, going across the line. So could have maybe used it on the previous lap a bit more, but with the DRS being so powerful, it really wouldn't have made that much of a difference, honestly. So is what it is. A frustrating one, an almost perfect league race here, but GG to Shizou, Ben Bills, Andre, everyone else. That was a very, very intense race. I will be back with league racing this weekend for BRS on Saturday at Imola. That's tomorrow, and RRL on Sunday as well. So thank you so much. Thank you for supporting the channel, and I will catch you very, very soon. Peace.